We all have a cutting board in our kitchen, but have you ever really thought about what makes a great one? It turns out that simple block of wood is hiding this whole secret world of clever engineering, material science, and some serious craftsmanship. But let's start with a really common frustration. You spend time sharpening your knives, they feel amazing for what, a week? And then suddenly, they're dull again. What if I told you the culprit might be the very surface you're cutting on?
So, let's break it down. On a typical board, an edge grain board, your knife is basically slicing across the wood fibers. Every cut leaves a little scar, and it slowly but surely blunts your blade. But then, there's the hero of our story, the end grain board. This thing is a total game changer. It's built to be self-healing and incredibly gentle on your knives.
So here's the magic. On an end grain board, all the wood fibers are pointing straight up, kind of like the bristles of a brush. When your knife comes down, it doesn't actually cut the fibers. It just slides right between them. The fibers part way to let the blade in, and then they just close right back up after it leaves. That's it. That's how the board heals itself and keeps your knife's edge perfect. Okay, so how do you even make a surface like that? Well, it's a really cool multi-stage process, and it all starts with the absolute basics, taking simple strips of hardwood and turning them into one big, solid panel. This is literally the foundation for everything that comes next. First, you take beautiful hardwoods like maple or walnut and cut them into perfectly uniform strips. You arrange them in a pattern you like, apply a good wood glue to every single edge, and then clamp the whole thing together under a ton of pressure. You let that sit for 24 hours, and boom, you got a solid panel. But for it to stay solid, the kind of glue you choose is absolutely crucial. And right here, this is the first huge decision you have to make. A cutting board is going to get washed constantly, right? So you need a glue that can handle water, all that wear and tear. You can't just grab any old wood glue off the shelf. Now, before we compare the glues, we need to understand this key term, open time. Think of it as your working window. It's those precious minutes you have to get all your wood strips perfectly lined up and clamps down before the glue starts to harden. And trust me, for a complicated glue up, having more open time is your best friend. So if we look at the really popular Titebond glues, you can see the differences pretty clearly. Titebond I, that's for indoor stuff only, no good for us. Titebond 2 is water resistant, which is a pretty solid choice. But Titebond 3, now that's the real champion. It's fully waterproof and it gives you double the open time. That's a huge advantage when you're trying to get everything just right. But listen to this. This is the real kicker. This quote comes straight from a technical specialist at the company that makes Titebond. He says Titebond 3 was specifically designed to resist high-temperature water. So for that moment we all know is going to happen when someone inevitably runs the board through the dishwasher, this is the glue that will actually hold it together. The choice is pretty clear, right? All right, so our first panel is glued up and solid. Now we get to the most important, most mind-bending part of the whole process. This is the step that turns a simple block of wood into a true end-grain cutting board. And here it is. You take that beautiful flat panel you just made and you cut it into strips again. But this time you cut across the glue lines. Then you take each of those new strips and you turn them all 90 degrees so the end grain, the part that looks like a bundle of straws, is facing up. You arrange those pieces, do one more big glue up, and that is the aha moment. It's brilliant. And what you get is that signature checkerboard look. Every single one of those little squares is a bundle of vertical wood fibers, all facing up, just waiting to cushion your knife. This one single transformative step is what unlocks all those self-healing, blade-friendly properties that make these boards so amazing. So the board is built. It's strong, it's beautiful, but it's not done yet. It needs protection. And this brings us to the final stage, and a fun little debate that woodworkers love to have. What's the absolute best way to finish it? To get to the bottom of this, we found a craftsman on Reddit who actually made 2 identical boards just so he could test the 2 most popular finishes side by side. And as he put it, right away, the visual difference was undeniable. So the 2 contenders are straight-up food-grade mineral oil and this stuff called board butter. Now, mineral oil is absolutely essential. It soaks deep into the wood to keep it hydrated and prevent it from cracking. Board butter is just that same mineral oil, but mixed with beeswax. The wax doesn't soak in quite as deep. Instead, it creates this amazing protective, water-resistant layer on top, and it gives the wood a much richer, deeper look.
And what I love about this story is that the same guy from Reddit, he doesn't even sell his boards. He gives them away as gifts. And with every single board, he includes a little tin of his own homemade board butter so the new owner can keep it looking fantastic. How cool is that?
And get this, he figured out that each little tin of finish costs him about $2 to make. Now compare that to a fancy, high-end commercial finish that can run you $45 or more. It's just such a thoughtful, practical, and incredibly smart touch. You see, a board made like this isn't some disposable kitchen gadget. It's an investment. It's a tool that, if you treat it right, you can honestly have for the rest of your life. So what does it take to care for it? Well, the rules are actually pretty simple. You wash it gently, and this is a big one, you never soak it or put it in the dishwasher. You've got to season it with mineral oil regularly to keep the wood from drying out. Always let it dry on a flat surface so it doesn't warp. And yeah, for that extra layer of protection, that beeswax blend is just fantastic. And here's a fantastic pro tip for you. You have to pay attention to the seasons. The dry air in the winter is really tough on wood. It can literally pull the moisture right out and cause cracks. So during those colder, drier months, you're going to want to oil your board a lot more often to keep it happy and hydrated. So there you have it. We've gone from a few simple strips of wood all the way to this complex, self-healing kitchen tool. We've seen the science in the fibers, the chemistry in the glue, and the art in the finish. And after seeing all that, you kind of have to ask yourself, isn't an object that's built with so much care and intention worth having in your kitchen?